I am Mary Ellen Wilson, and I am the Manager of Training and Documentation here at Cadmium, and I'm joined by Jen Sims, who's the Product Owner for Registration, and we are excited to bring you a hands-on workshop about Cadmium's check-in and badging solution. So the agenda for this session will be for us to discuss some of the challenges, and then how Cadmium has solved those challenges with check-in and badging. We will also talk more about Cadmium on-site. I know it says introduction, but if you were in Megan's session, you got a very good introduction to Cadmium on-site. We talked about it yesterday in the Speaker Ready System one as well. We'll also review the custom badge designer within EdgeReg, give you the opportunity to play around with creating your own custom badge template, and then we're going to head on over to the check-in area where we will show you how we can set up the check-in kiosks and print some badges based on the information that you provided in the form for this session. So by the end of this session, we hope that you will be able to explore Cadmium's check-in and badging solution and that you'll be able to learn how to efficiently execute the check-in process and print those on-demand badges. We'll also share the best practices for ensuring a smooth check-in experience for attendees and staff. And finally, you will understand how Cadmium's check-in and badging solution can streamline event operations, minimize wait times, and enhance attendee satisfaction. So I'm going to hand it over to Jen, who will start talking to you about some of the check-in challenges that you may or may not have faced.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Okay, so let's get started with check-in challenges. So obviously, you all are here, you run events, you're a part of the event planning process and the on-site experience. With that experience, nothing runs perfectly, right? Your goal is to try and make it as clean and smooth and easy for everybody to experience as possible. And so there's various roles. The first is the event staff. So the event staff, they have these responsibilities. If you aren't currently using an on-demand badging solution, you're probably pre-printing badges. And that means you've got the responsibility of organizing those badges on site. I'm sure we've all been to events where you walk up to, A through L and find your section, and then you get to the front of the line and you ask for your name and they say, we don't see you, and now you're getting sent over to some other section to get support there. That process is complicated for the event staff for their on-site experience, their management of the on-site experience. There's also the manual attendee check-in aspect. So if you are doing pre-printed badges, you have to separately keep track of who's come. You can either do that by whichever badges didn't get picked up after the event, but that doesn't give you really a real-time count. You're going into the registration system separately to look up somebody, to mark them as attended. You've got a printout that you're maybe highlighting or checking off somebody as they've checked in. So that adds that layer. And then the actual physical distribution, as I was mentioning, that line that is created, the handing out of the badge stock, that's a staff responsibility that can become cumbersome and require additional staff just to support that number of people. And then from an attendee experience, there's the other side of that, right? So you've got longer registration desk queues as people are waiting to pick up their things. If you aren't pre-printing and you're manually printing by looking them up through a registration system to print their badges, that also can take additional time for them to wait. Those cluttered registration desks, if you're walking up to a desk and you're hunting through and you're asking them to spell their name 7 times and looking for their badge, it is not an experience that the attendees necessarily love and doesn't really give a good first impression of your event when they're first coming up to the registration area. And so that management of those long lines, that management of manually logging and doing the reporting, that confusion that happens as far as how many people are checked in and when did they check in and who do we have here now and who do we not, is that kind of event staff experience that we're trying to improve. The other aspect that attendees can run into are some issues with their badges themselves. So pre-printed badges, invariably, they fill out all their information online, they get on site, you hand them their badge, and they say, oh, this is spelled wrong. Oh, my name is actually capital this and lowercase this. And so that creates inaccurate information on their badge. They then have to go to someone to have that badge information updated, and that can create delays in the lines, as delays in their ability to go and attend their general session that most likely they got there 3 minutes beforehand. And so Cadmium's solution. So we have created a self-service event check-in and on-demand badge printing solution. You all experienced it when you came, either yesterday or today. The concept behind this is that you can walk up to a kiosk, with your QR code, or an attendee can walk up to a kiosk with their QR code, scan that QR code, get their badge, move on. Not necessarily needing to have as much on-site support, on-site help. And so the way we accomplish that is through a couple of different things. Pre-event communication. So prior to the event, you're sending out a communication that includes the check-in QR code. You all have received one, or should have received one before you came on site today or yesterday. And that allows them to walk up, scan the QR code. If you weren't in the session earlier today, we are working on adding, by the end of the year, a lookup by email, so that if you don't get the QR code or you don't want to try and hunt it down in your emails, you can go up to the kiosk, put in your email address, and it will print based on that. We also suggest to customers they include the badge preview link. Including the badge preview link gives the attendee the ability to see the badge ahead of time, see how their name is spelled, see how their company is spelled, whatever pieces of information you're included, for them to see what's going to be on there. And then, if you allow your customers to do this, you can include the link to the registration system for them to log back in and make changes. That is that last-minute step that avoids them getting in a long line at the registration desk to have you manually change their information. They can update it real time, make sure that their information is correct, and then when they get on site, they can print with that QR code and be on their way. And so we will show, if you've seen this all before, you've experienced this all before. You can pre-print your QR code, but you don't have to. You can also just pull it up on your device, scan it at the kiosk, the badge prints, grab your lanyard, and you're off and running. I'll skip through that. And so that's the check-in and badging experience from the lens of the attendee event staff experience. But on-site at the event, check-in and badging actually incorporates into registration. It's necessary to have registration in order to have check-in and badging. The registration records, as people are checking in, are reflected real-time in Cadmium on-site, so the badge creation, check-in feeds back to registration, so you know that person is checked in. Any changes that are made to the badges are updated real-time to the printers, to the kiosk scanners. So if you print a badge, get on site, you set up your badge ahead of time, you print your badge, and you realize, ooh, there's something wrong with the setup, or there's a little tweak that we want to make here. You can make that edit in an editor that we're going to play around with in a little bit, and then immediately see those results with the next badge that prints, which is something that our previous badging solution did not offer, and I think really improves the experience on site because you can immediately make those changes if you need to. As I mentioned, the check-in data that's being scanned or being entered via Cadmium on-site immediately feeds back to the registration system, which means that at the registration system, you can manage reports associated with who's checked in, when they checked in, how many badges were printed, reprints that were printed, things of that nature. So that gives you that real-time information. Cadmium on-site also offers that real-time information, and Mary Ellen will talk about that now.
So I was here to introduce Cadmium on-site, but like I said, it was already discussed very thoroughly in Megan's session. So just a quick review of what Cadmium on-site is. It's a tool that allows event planners to support staff to easily execute those on-site tasks. The Cadmium on-site dashboard gives you access to modules where you will execute those tasks. We have kiosks, attendees, and stations right now. The stations module is the one that's used for speaker ready system, and then kiosks and attendees are for check-in and badging. Within Cadmium on-site, you can also control the permission levels to add people based on an email address, and then control the permission level they have to the modules and to the events. Jen wanted me to point out that it is not registration admin, so you're not giving your on-site staff access to your registration. It's simply access to Cadmium on-site to execute those on-site tasks. And then if you are managing multiple events, you can easily navigate between events within Cadmium on-site, and you have everything at your fingertips. It works on your computer, your tablet, or your phone, as Monty showed us in the session before this. And as I mentioned, the check-in and badging uses the kiosks and attendees modules within Cadmium Onsite. So the kiosk module is where you will set up, activate, and troubleshoot your check-in kiosks. We will experience that at the registration area in just a few moments. We'll show you how you can add those kiosks in Cadmium Onsite, and then it also gives you real-time information about the status of those kiosks. And then the attendees module is where you will manually check in and print badges at the kiosk if needed. That also is what syncs back to the registration, so that if you needed to make a change within an attendee's record, that would sync to Onsite, and then you would be able to reprint the badge from there. All right, and in addition to what you've learned today and what you'll experience in the registration area, bless you, we also have some resources that are available. We have an on-demand training course within Cadmium University, which is asynchronous, so you can learn anytime from anywhere, and it will walk you through the entire process for using check-in and badging at your events. Within that, we also have planning guides and setup guides to allow you to interact with the training course at the time that you need. It is a long process, obviously, to go through a registration and check-in and badging at your event, so it will give you some guidance on when you should interact with different parts of the training course so that the information that you have is available to you when you need to use it. And we also have a little bit of a cheat sheet that you can bring on site so that you can remind yourself how to go through the setup process for the kiosks. And finally, our documentation portal has all of the information and articles about using check-in and badging at your event. It's customer focused. We have it organized by workflow within the product, and it is referenced in the training course, so you can go back and forth between the portals so that you can get all of the information that you need to successfully implement this at your event. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about designing a badge. That's the fun part, and that will be the hands-on part. So.
Yeah, so within the registration system, we have a custom badge designer. We're going to give you a chance in a minute to log in to registration. If you don't already have a login, we just have a generic account that everybody can log into. When you log into the system, you'll have, within the badge designer, you have the ability to create a badge template and set it for the event. You'll be able to add images, add attendee information, QR codes, custom text, conditional logic. For the badges that are double-sided, there is the ability to mirror the front and back. We are using double-sided badges for this conference, but not mirrored. But you have the ability to just say, I want the same information on the front as the back. And then you can obviously save the template and preview your sample badge. I'll make a little caveat here for images and logos. The badge printers that we're using are Zebra printers. They are black and white only printers. So the images that you're going to print, if you're printing images, are going to be black and white. And so what we do and what we strongly encourage for a lot of customers is to pre-print badge stock with color logo, which is, again, what we see here on our badges. And so we're going to have you log in, create a template, design your badge if you want to. Nobody feels like they have to do this, and then save your work. If you're not already using EdgeEdge, you can log in at edgeedge.net. This is a direct login into the registration product. Many of you have probably logged in via my Cadmium, but you can log in using this username, abcd@gocadmium.com, and the password's abcd1234. We're very creative. Probably won't leave this up for terribly long after the event. So if you want to play around for a little bit, maybe through the day, and then probably tomorrow I'll take this access down. Once you log in, you'll click on the Spark 2024 Check-in and Badging Workshop. You'll select the On-Demand Badge Templates area, and then you'll click the button in the top right corner to select to add a badge. So I'm going to show a little video on how the custom badge designer works, but if any of you want to play around with it, feel free. I would suggest name the badge that you create your name so that it's unique. If you all type in test, you're not going to know which one was the one that you made later. And so
Badges are designed in the custom badge design tool. Badge layouts are designed to include any piece of information associated with an attendee, such as name, address, company, or job title. Adding information to a badge is a simple drag and drop. Each piece of information added to the badge has unique properties that can be modified as the badge is being designed. You can also include custom text-based information, images, and QR codes for session scanning and lead retrieval. Text properties include font, size, and style. Images can be added to the badge for preview and layout purposes only. All information on the badge has advanced settings that can have conditional logic applied based on fees paid during registration or answers to questions on the registration form. This allows for a custom badge for each attendee at your event.
Okay, so let you guys play around with that if you are interested. And I also wanted to talk about some of the sample badges that we have. There are lots of different stock options, not stock options, but stock options available. We're not offering stock options today. Stock options available for the printers. And so I wanted to kind of showcase some of those because that's one of the most intangible things to talk about virtually. So through a documentation, through training, it gets a little bit tricky. I'll start with the one that we have here. All of these samples are badge stock that I've gotten from Choose to Rent, who's one of our sponsors and exhibitors on site at the event today. So you may want to talk with them to get some more information, pricing and all of that. But this is their new IntelliBadge stock. This was very exciting to me because I didn't even know about it till we got here. But because it has that kind of stickiness on both sides, it makes it easy for you to close the badge, have a double-sided badge that doesn't pop open, but also allows for repositioning if you accidentally close it. And then they were excited about, and it makes sense, the eco lanyard because it doesn't include metal, but obviously there are tons of different styles available. So I'm gonna hold up a couple and then walk around, and if anybody wants to see them and touch them. While we're doing that, I'm going to go back.
Can I make a comment? You
may.
Because we're thinking about buying this badge, I have to put it in the bathroom sink and dried it off. No, that's okay.
Are we sure that's how it happened?
Yeah. She saw me do it. Because I told Anthony from Choose to Rent that I would do a video for him if he wanted me to, but I put my badge in the bathroom sink, got it all wet, and then dried it off. And I'm wearing it again today.
So the biggest caveat for our company in terms of integrating this is our current registration system has scanners that they deliver to our events that allow people to stand outside and do access control to make sure that people with certain badges can get into the sessions that they need to. Is that something you guys are considering integrating at all?
So we currently, Cadmium currently has a session scanning access level control as part of our EventScribe mobile app product. So that's already something that we have. We don't incorporate, just as a kind of a caveat overview to this check-in and badging solution requires a Cadmium registration. So with Cadmium registration comes Cadmium's check-in and badging, and with that check-in and badging, it kind of opens the door to the scan products beyond that, so our lead retrieval products and our session scanning products. There's a current session scanning product that includes access control in EventScribe's mobile app, so you can talk with your project manager or salesperson about the feature functionality that you want. But within our registration, during the registration process, you do have the ability to select sessions, select specific pieces of information, of the control that you want to have access to that feeds into that current session scanning. I will say separately, in the pipeline, I'm going to be working on a new session scanning solution that is separate from the mobile app and will work with the kiosk check-in app that we are currently using for the check-in and badging solution. Does that answer your question?
That's really helpful.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit more or repeat what you had said about the printout being black and white only? There are no options for printing color?
Absolutely, and I will use that as my segue into these samples that I have, which I don't need to show everybody. If you're interested, I can bring them up. The Zebra printers that we're using currently, the current setup of the printers we have, and we are looking into options for color printing actively right now, but it's early in the development phase. Those printers print only in black and white. What that means is you can print a logo, but it's just going to be a black and white logo. And so vast majority of customers who are going to use that badge printing solution are going to print pre-print stock with their logos, with their graphics, and then the only information that's being printed on the actual badge is the black and white information that's usually unique to that individual. So these badges, as you can see, have the color logo at the bottom. That was pre-printed on this stock prior to getting here. And then we're just printing the information about the registration. We also obviously have like the Wi-Fi information, but we can only print that. You can print graphics. It's just that they're only going to be black and white. So with that, we've got these kinds of badges, similar to these kinds of badges where it's pre-printed. I did want to show off, this one's a little bit interesting. So this is a hard card pre-printed badge. The only information that's printed on it ahead of time is just about the information, about the overall event. And then let me grab one of these labels. Ooh, sorry. There is a different style printer, slightly different than the one we have out at the registration area. The one we have out of the registration area, and the vast majority of these are what they call direct thermal, where the paper is activated similar to the way the receipt at a grocery store would be. It's activated by a heat, and it changes the color. Hence, there's no color because it's just black. There is also something that Zebra does called a thermal transfer, where it's a ribbon and a piece of paper, and you're affixing that ink to the paper. And what that allows for is, this is actually clear, it's got a backing to it, but this is a clear label I printed using one of those kinds of printers. The same exact setup, form factor, all of that, but it's a clear label. And so what we've seen customers do is you can actually pre-print the hard card and then only print the information about the registrant on a label, stick that label on, and you're good to go. Does that help answer some of the questions? We are in the process of looking into color printing, but we're not there yet.
It does. So then if you wanted to do the color and pre-print the stock, you could configure all of that in the badge
Correct. So
program.
yeah, if you have the logo kind of pre-designed, you can import that logo into the custom badge designer, and then you can set the setting for that image to say, I only want to use this image for the badge previews that you send out in an email communication and for that actual editor so that you know where you're aligning things. Okay. But then the prints and the data that gets sent to the printer doesn't include that logo, so that just the black and white information prints.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking the clarifying question.
Hi, Jennifer, how are you?
Good. Sandy, how are you?
So our show, we have drink tickets, print with a name badge. How are you accommodate that?
Great question. So currently we don't have tickets printing from the badging system. That being said, there are a few workarounds. I don't know that I brought a sample stock, but we do have, Choose to Rent does have a custom stock that has a 4x6 front badge and a back badge that actually has perforations every inch. So it can create these kind of little strip tickets. You could use, as long as it falls within the nuance of the registration, you could use that and that conditional logic that we were kind of mentioning in the view to say, if they answer yes to this, or if they purchase this item, print this word on the ticket, on one of those little strips. That's kind of a workaround for the short term. We're definitely looking into the possibility of printing tickets with badges. The one thing I will say with that is that there is some limitation to the actual stock that's available. So first iteration, what I'm envisioning would probably be 4x3 badge with 4x3 tickets. If you can imagine, you don't really want a 4x6 double-sided badge and then a 4x6 double-sided badge for every one of the tickets that you need printed. And you don't necessarily know how many tickets a person's going to get. So that's one of those limiting factors. In basic badging, there is the ability to do badge sheets that include badges and tickets. It's an additional cost because there is a pretty significant amount of project management support. Registration project managers can help with the layouts for those. But they are currently available in the basic badging that's separate from this check-in and badging solution. That would just be with PDF. But if anybody has any feedback or thoughts on the tickets, because I understand the value there, the other thing I will say is for tickets, consider using the QR code. Consider using session scanning if you don't need to. Drink tickets is one of those, I know, exceptions where you don't want to have to give the person working at the bar the responsibility of doing that scan. But consider instead of maybe tickets to individual sessions, using session scanning as your mechanism. Sure. Great questions. Like I said, I have a couple other samples There's 4x3 single-sided and double-sided, and 4x6 single-sided and double-sided stock. So we've got some samples up here. If anybody's interested, I can bring them up to the front table here. And then the next step, once we're done here, if there's no more questions that are not kind of hands-on, is a field trip. So we're going to go over to the registration area. Yep.
In the control center or the dashboard of your Edge Reg, I know there's a way where you can preview the badges for every registrant.
Great question.
Where's the button?
Yeah, so couple of caveats. If you're logged in using the login that we put up there,
I'm logged into
you're
mine.
logged in as you.
Yeah.
The previewing for all the badges is currently only in the basic badging area. For the individuals for check-in and badging, when you enable this is the badge that I'm going to be using for this, in each registrant's detail page, there is a badge preview button. What we suggest, if you want to double check to make sure like things are fitting, is that you run a report, confirm what's the person with the longest name, what's the person with the longest company name, and then go and look at that person's badge as an example, because as we get larger and larger events, running a PDF with thousands of people's badges on it becomes a little untenable. And so that's kind of the suggestion we have if you want to do like a spot check.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Any last questions before
Before we go on a road
we
trip?
all go for a little walk?
Yeah, if anybody wants to, we'll just skip. If you didn't already get a chance, or you came in a little late, on our very first slide, we've got a QR code for signing up for the badge testing we're about to head over to. If you didn't do that, don't worry about it. It's just going to give you an opportunity to print a badge, which you've probably already done, but you'll be able to see kind of that experience from complete registration all the way through.
Hey, sorry, just a small question, and if you answered this already, I apologize. I was
No worries.
messing around. But the ability to print icons onto the badge rather than text, is that something that will happen, or it's available?
Stick around.
Oh my gosh, this is like a dream of mine. Okay, thanks.
Yep. If you haven't already registered, register and tell us what your favorite season is, and then you'll get to see.